This segment is brought to you by St. Martin and Bourke. Know your rights.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. Anytime we have anything happening in our area, no matter what's going on, we turn our attention to Blake Tabor, Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me as always.
We appreciate it. And we got a couple of big cases to talk about. Let's talk about this shooting first. A lot of people are aware of it. Let's talk about how you guys have seen it.
Absolutely. So, again, this was a case that kind of came to head on Tuesday around 6 p.m. Ultimately, our patrol division was called to the 700 block of Bayou Gardens, where they ultimately encountered a deceased 19-year-old male inside the apartment, along with a 18-year-old female who was suffering from some pretty serious gunshot wounds. Ultimately, anytime we have this, the paramount that we get medical in there. Bayou Cane arrived on scene. We were able to get them. Of course, like we had mentioned, the male was deceased on scene, so right. The female was transferred to an out-of-area hospital where she is still in the recovery process. It's my understanding that she is still in critical condition,
right,
but somewhat stable.
Okay, wow.
Okay. So even though it's not the best case scenario,
right,
our prayers are certainly with her.
Right.
When it comes to suspects at this point, it's still under investigation. We have very little information at this point that we are releasing about a suspect. Certainly, we know that someone entered the apartment, right, and fired upon these two individuals. We don't have any information in reference to motive. As we talked about yesterday and during the course of this investigation, people want to know why. Is it drug related? Is it just violence?
Related,
is
right.
it relationship? At this point, we don't know and we can't confirm, but we certainly are not ruling out any possibility when it comes to this, right? So, the big thing now is just making sure that the public maintains their awareness. And if anyone knows anything, we are asking them to obviously contact us at the Sheriff's Office, 985-876-2500, or that information can also be reported to Crime Stoppers BR at 1-800-743-7433, and also the Bayou Tips app, which is always anonymous.
Right. And so again, active, ongoing investigation. But if people know something, say something.
Absolutely.
Give you guys a call. Just any leads to let us know, because we're going to find him. We're going to find the person that did this for whatever reason, and we'll identify motive and that information.
Sure. And look, make no mistake. We are doing our due diligence and we are hot on the trail.
Right.
There's just some information that we just can't confirm at this point.
Right. We're still looking into that.
Absolutely.
We also had an arrest for third-degree rape. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so again, unfortunately, this one was another one that happened on Tuesday, September 9th in the early morning hours. We received a call from a third-party caller, which basically was someone in the general area that could hear a disturbance going on inside of a home here in Houma on the west side. So ultimately, our units were called to that location. Once they got there, they encountered a female who quickly told them that she was raped. And that the male perpetrator was still in the home.
Oh, my goodness.
So ultimately, we know what happens from there, right?
Right.
Deputies converge, find him in a rear bedroom, take him into custody, and ultimately he is identified as a Dontrell Dan Johnson of Houma. He's a 45-year-old male. You see him photographed here. Ultimately, interviews were conducted. He was taken into custody. Interviews were conducted. Of course, he denied any of the allegations of rape. But there was a lot of evidence at the scene which confirmed the allegations that the victim made. In addition to that, the victim was transferred to a local hospital where she received some treatment. And of course, there was some evidence taken during the course of that treatment.
Sure.
And ultimately, the detectives were able to, SVU, again, they come in, they're our resident experts. They found enough evidence to support the fact that they charged him with third-degree rape. And he is currently still incarcerated at our facility on a $50,000 bond.
$50,000 bond. And so, again, it's one of those things where, gosh, when we find out this type of allegation, SVU, again, like you mentioned, they're the experts.
Absolutely.
And we bring them in, and they have such a great perspective on finding the correct information, investigating, but providing support while they do it. That's a big deal.
And look, this particular case garnered a lot of interest on our Facebook page, as most of them do.
Right.
We had a lot of people that came to the forefront in support of the male suspect and had certain opinions about the female victim. This is what I will tell you. The sheriff's office is not a platform to air your dirty laundry and your feelings about whether the person is innocent or guilty, right? We understand that people have very compassionate feelings about that, and we are all in support of that. However, I think people forget about the fact that we have to go off of the evidence and the facts that we have at the time of the investigation.
Right.
Okay? We are correct. We are not in the habit of arresting innocent people. Right? When we make an arrest, we have to establish what's called probable cause, and that is facts and circumstances that will leave a prudent person to believe that the crime was committed. Okay, so this is far beyond certain levels of proof, if you will, that remain in civil court and different things like that. So I think it's important for people to understand that there's a lot that goes in. It's not just someone's word on whether something happened or not.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, this happened. Okay, fine, arrest that person. Now they're charged with third degree rape. That's not how it happens.
That is absolutely
gather
not
all
how
the
it
information, but also, as we know through the hospital setting, that rape kit that's done is done specifically to determine what may or may not have happened physiologically.
Absolutely.
And so we also get that data as well. It's all data driven, and it's got to be based on probable cause. Well, Blake, two interesting circumstances. Never like to see either of those: a shooting with a death and someone critically injured, and a rape in our area. We're so very glad to have Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office taking care of it and handling it for us.
Thanks for having us, Keith.
You got it. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. But don't go anywhere. I got a whole lot more right here on Bayou Time.
This segment was brought to you by St. Martin and Bourke. Know your rights.